Bernie has won the popular vote in the Iowa Caucus, while Pete Buttigieg has won the most delegates. The app for counting the votes crashed and they weren't able to release the results. It was a complete and total shit show, and Trump is taking advantage of it. Nevertheless, Bernie has come out strong and he's set to win the New Hampshire primary next week. And the latest polls show him neck and neck with Joe Biden, surging to number 1 nationally with 27% and leading in key states like California. There is now a realistic chance that Bernie Sanders could become the Democratic nominee to face Donald Trump in a presidential election. But can a self-identified Democratic socialist really defeat Trump? Are Democrats hurting themselves by nominating Bernie Sanders? In this video, we're going to take a look at national polls, as well as leaked audio that shows that Trump is scared of Bernie, and we'll do a state-by-state analysis of each of the swing states that Bernie will need to defeat Trump. Recent polls show that Bernie beats Trump 52 to 43 nationally. And this was in a sample where 70% of the voters were either moderate, conservative, or very conservative. Now you might say, surely as soon as Donald Trump starts attacking Bernie Sanders as a socialist, he will go down in the polls. Well, we have data on that. A new survey compared polls pitting Bernie against Trump where he is called a socialist. In the survey, respondents are told this: who would you vote for? Democrat Bernie Sanders, who wants to tax the billionaire class to help the working class? Or Republican Donald Trump, who says that Sanders is a socialist who supports a government takeover of healthcare and open borders? Now, to be clear, Bernie Sanders does not support open borders.
Open borders?
Open
borders. That's a Koch brothers proposal. The
Really?
idea, of course. I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of the global poor richer, wouldn't it?
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state. And I don't think there's any country in the world which believes in that.
He supports immigration reform. But in any case, even when voters were told that Trump accused Bernie of being a socialist who supports open borders, Bernie still beats Trump nationally, 47 to 42. On top of that, leaked audio from Trump shows that he's scared of Bernie because Bernie appeals to the same Rust Belt voters that Trump needed to win the election.
That's why I think a big part of our vice president would have been tougher. You know, I got 20% of Bernie vote. People don't realize that because of trade, because he's a big trade guy. You know, he basically says we're getting screwed on trade. And he's right. Had she picked Bernie Sanders, it would have been tougher. It was the only one I didn't want her to pick.
You heard it from the man himself. Bernie is good on trade, and Trump was scared that Hillary Clinton would have nominated Bernie as her vice president. Luckily for him, she didn't. Now, you might say, okay, so Bernie can win the popular vote, but so did Hillary, and she lost. Can Bernie win the swing states that he needs to defeat Trump? So let's take a look. Alright guys, so this is 270 to win, and basically it's a website which has an interactive electoral college map. And so we're going to look at each of the swing states. We're going to look at different polls and different pieces of evidence, reasons why Sanders would win or lose those different swing states. And on the basis of that, we're going to calculate the minimum number of electoral college seats that Bernie Sanders would need to win the election. So if you look at the map here, it's very interactive. Over here, you can see whether a seat is safe for the Democrats or Republicans, whether it's likely or whether it leans toward one party. And so currently we have the different swing states. We have Wisconsin, which Trump won. We have Michigan, which Trump won. Ohio, Pennsylvania. Now, those 4 states are swing states, and they are in the Rust Belt, which is sort of the traditional manufacturing area of America, and most of the workers in that area changed from Obama to Trump. There are also other swing states like North Carolina, which used to be solidly Republican, but it's increasingly becoming a swing state. There's Florida, which Obama won, but Trump won it as well. There's Nevada, a swing state, which went for Hillary Clinton last time, but it could still go to Donald Trump. There's also New Hampshire, which is a little bit smaller. And there is Iowa, which went for Obama twice, but went for Trump in 2016. And then there's Minnesota, which is a sort of a swing state, but did go for Hillary Clinton. And there's also Arizona, which is traditionally a Republican state, but again is a swing state, could go either way potentially. All right, so we're going to start with the Rust Belt, which is the most important area that Trump won, that traditionally always went for the Democrats, but this time Republican Donald Trump won it. And there's several reasons to believe that Bernie Sanders could win this area. And so if we look at the polls, we're going to be looking at the Real Clear Politics polls. And Real Clear Politics basically adds up the average of all the polls. And so we're not going to use any one poll, but we're going to use the Real Clear Politics average. And of course, any poll has a margin of error. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the Real Clear Politics average for each swing state. And if Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump is leading by less than 3 points, I'm going to allocate it as either lean or undecided. And if it's more than 3 points, I'm going to allocate it to the Democrats or to the Republicans. So we'll start with Michigan, which was one of the Rust Belt states that traditionally goes for Democrats, but in 2016 went for Trump. And if you look at the Real Clear Politics average, what you see is Sanders is leading by 6.7 points. That's not small, that's big. Trump won this state, but Sanders is beating Trump by 6.7% in the Real Clear Politics average of polling. So we are going to allocate Michigan to the Democrats, and I'm going to make it a likely Democratic state. Then the next Rust Belt swing state that we have is Wisconsin. All right, so Wisconsin is actually very interesting. Wisconsin is another one of those Rust Belt swing states. And back in 2017, right after Trump got elected, Bernie Sanders went to a small town called Kenosha, which is a town that voted for Obama in 2012, but voted for Trump in 2016. And he hosted a town hall there, and all the people in the town hall were Trump supporters who used to support Democrats. And Bernie Sanders, surprisingly, got a lot of traction with those people. He got them to endorse and applaud for most of his policies.
Nobody here, I suspect, thinks it is appropriate that the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Anybody think that makes sense? No. Anybody think it makes sense that 52% of all new income is going to the top 1%? No. I don't think people do. And all of you voted for Trump. Is there a general consensus here that our trade policies have failed the American worker? No. Yes. You're looking at a guy who voted against every one of these trade agreements.
And in fact, there were a number of people in the audience who said that if Bernie Sanders had been the Democratic nominee in 2016, rather than Hillary Clinton, that they would have voted for Bernie Sanders.
Would you have supported Senator Sanders if he was the nominee?
Yes, I would have.
What do you think of that, Senator Sanders?
Well, I appreciate it.
The people that I know, it's either Donald Trump or you on the other end. They like Donald Trump and they like Bernie because they talk to the people. And we thought everybody else was just giving us a bunch of hogwash.
Look, I know a lot of people think that Bernie Sanders is too far to the left to appeal to people in the Rust Belt states. But if you look at how Bernie Sanders talks to these people, you'll come to see my point of view. Bernie Sanders can win in the Rust Belt. And looking at the Real Clear Politics average of polling in Wisconsin, Sanders is up 2 points on average against Trump. Now, 2 points is not that much, so I'm going to place Wisconsin as in the margin of error as lean Democrat in the very, very light blue. It's leaning somewhat towards Sanders, but he could lose as well. So moving on to the next swing state, we've got Pennsylvania, which was also, again, won by Trump, but traditionally Democrats are supposed to win this state. And looking at the real clear politics average for Bernie Sanders, he's up 3.7%, which puts him above the sort of 3% margin of error. And so I will put it as lean, as a likely that Sanders will win Pennsylvania. Then the next swing state we have is Ohio. Now, Ohio went to Trump, and Ohio, I don't really see a real clear politics average, but if you look at the latest poll, Sanders is up 6 points. There is also another poll which shows that Trump is up 1 point, so on average that would be, I think, 3 points for Sanders. So I'm going to put it as a lean Democrat. It could still go either way. And then the next one that's up is Iowa. Now, Bernie Sanders has done very well in the Iowa primary, but of course a primary is different from a general election. And according to the Real Clear Politics average of polling, Trump is up 6 points in Iowa. So I think Iowa is going to go for Donald Trump once again. And I'm going to put it as likely going for Trump. The next state we've got is Minnesota. Now, if we look at Minnesota, we see that Bernie Sanders is up by 9 points. I don't really even think that this state is a swing state anymore. It's you could almost say that it's solidly Democratic. Every Democratic candidate is doing very well in Minnesota. And so I think I'll put it as a safe for the Democrats, actually. The next state we've got North Carolina. Now, North Carolina went to Trump last time. And if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polling, Bernie Sanders is up only by 1% on average. And so North Carolina I'll put as a toss-up, essentially. It could go either way. There's no way to determine which way it's going to go. Looking at the next swing state, we have Florida. Now, Florida, again, is another state that went to Obama, but then went to Trump in 2016. Looking at the Real Clear Politics average of polling, it's a tie between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. It could go either way. There's no way to determine who Florida will go to, so I will put it as a toss-up, which is in the gray. The next state that we've got is Arizona. Looking at Arizona, Arizona went to Trump last time, and the Real Clear Politics average of polling shows Trump is up 5 points in Arizona. So Arizona, I think, is definitely going to go to Trump. So I'm going to put it as lean Republican. And then the next state we've got up is Nevada. Nevada was actually won by Hillary Clinton last time, but it is still a swing state. And looking at the Real Clear Politics average of polling, Bernie Sanders is only up by 2.7%. That's a razor-thin margin. So I'm going to put it as lean Democrat, but it's by no means a safe state at all. And that leaves us with Texas. I know most of you probably think that Texas is a solidly red Republican state, but actually Texas is not as safe Republican as it used to be. In 2018, during the midterm elections, for Senate, Beto O'Rourke, a progressive Democrat, actually almost defeated Ted Cruz, the Republican. Really by a razor-thin margin he lost. And if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polling, Trump only wins Texas by 3.2% compared to Bernie Sanders. So I'll put it as a lean Republican, or likely to be Republican. But even Texas might not necessarily be safe, but I think Trump will probably win Texas. And then if we look at New Hampshire, New Hampshire is right next to Vermont, which is where Bernie Sanders is from. I think New Hampshire is very likely to go to Bernie Sanders. The Real Clear Politics average shows he's up by 5 points. So I think New Hampshire, which is over here, we can put as a likely Democratic state. And then what does that leave us with? That leaves us with Virginia. Virginia is increasingly becoming a blue state. It has a Democratic governor, a Democratic state house. It went to Hillary Clinton last time. And the Real Clear Politics average shows that Sanders is up 3.5 points in Virginia. So it's definitely going to be a likely Democratic state. And looking at the Electoral College, we have two for sure toss-ups, North Carolina and Florida. So let's just say that North Carolina is likely to go to Trump. Let's say that Florida is likely to go to Trump. That leaves Trump with 242 Electoral College seats, and Bernie Sanders with 296. You need 270 to win. And so, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls that we have so far, Bernie Sanders is likely to win the election, including winning the Electoral College against Donald Trump. And even if we would take away a state such as Ohio, that would still make Bernie Sanders to win with a narrow 278 Electoral College votes. But it does still show that Bernie Sanders is vulnerable. Bernie Sanders has the potential to win. The Real Clear Politics average of polling shows that he can win in the Rust Belt. Multiple town halls he's had in the Rust Belt shows that he can appeal to those voters. However, Mr. Trump only needs to flip one or two states in the Rust Belt to win. Because if you look, I've said now, suppose Trump wins Ohio, he will still lose the election. But let's say he flips one other Rust Belt state. Maybe he flips Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania goes to Trump. In that scenario, Trump wins with 280 Electoral College votes. So whichever way this election goes, it's going to be a really, really, really close election. And if you support Bernie Sanders, you have to do everything in your power to make sure that those Rust Belt states go to Bernie Sanders, because this is going to be a close election. And not just with Bernie Sanders, but with any Democratic candidate. The same kind of figures you see with Joe Biden, with Elizabeth Warren, with Pete Buttigieg actually loses to Trump, if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polling. And so we really do have to be vigilant. Tell me what you think, guys. Like, share, and subscribe, because this was my take.